Hello, welcome for our lesson. In the previous lesson, we were looking at the significance of volcanicity after discovering the various effects or various landforms that are created on Earth's surface as a result of volcanicity. Perhaps there are some significance about them. When you look at the features, that result from volcanicity, both extrusive features and intrusive features, they also have some positive effects, and also there is a negative effect about volcanicity. For example, when you look at the positive effects of volcanicity during volcanic activity, in the previous part we look at the volcanic produce high volcanic mountains, which is one of the effects. Volcanicity produce high volcanic mountains. When you look at the high volcanic mountains, they are a part of our physical environment. What is their use? Do we have any significance that it could be positive about the high volcanic mountains? Perhaps there are numerous when you carefully look at them. On these highlands, on these volcanic mountains, these highlands during erosion, when you look at the erosion process and weathering, this lead to the formation of soil. And this soil is rich. We have the rich volcanic soil that will be formed. And then if you have a rich volcanic soil, what will happen? Plants will be able to be grown in the area. Plants will be grown for various purposes. Actually, various plants will be grown. For example, we can have some plants like maize. We can have wheat. We can even have flowers, and the vegetables also are a part of the plants. And what do you learn from this? The rich volcanic soil form a basement on which wheat, maize, and flowers, even vegetables, can be grown. As a result of that, it becomes a positive effect of volcanic mountains. Upon erosion, they lead to the formation of soil. And when the soil is rich, has got what we call a rich volcanic soil, therefore plants can be grown on that soil for the human consumption. That is one of the positive effects. When we look at another, the second one, which is also a positive effect, the volcanic mountains or volcanicity produce beautiful scenery. Beautiful scenery are created on the environment. These sceneries does what to the economy? Every beautiful scenery attracts tourists. They attract tourists who come in a particular regions of the land or the particular regions of the country. And then in turn there is some payment in terms of fees, which is exchange of foreign currency. Therefore, there will be an exchange of foreign currency. and foreign currency will be able to help a particular state or a particular country for the purpose of the country to promote its economic status. And that is the second benefit of volcanicity, especially the largest or the highest volcanic mountain in the world, like the Himalayas ranges. It is one of the beautiful scenery in the world that everyone will want to go and see. It's beautiful and see how it is very much attractive, and as a result of that, the people who are found in those regions, economically they benefit. Therefore, it promotes their economic status. That becomes the second aspect of a positive indicator of volcanicity. When we look at another one during volcanic eruption, the minerals are exposed. What happens? Volcanicity exposes minerals, and as a result, those minerals are exposed. They are now accessible. Because they are accessible, they are easy to be mined. They are easy to be mined without the use of sophisticated mining technology that many countries employ. Minerals such as gold can be brought on the surface. We have diamond, which are also very much precious. We have titanium and tin or even copper. These minerals are very important. When volcanicity exposes the minerals near or on the earth's surface during volcanic eruption, you'll find these minerals are easily accessible. And therefore, any person who wants to invest in mining industry, those minerals can easily be mined. And a mineral like gold or diamond, titanium and copper, they are a very useful mineral in our modern world. And so far, every country admire to find gold because of its usefulness, diamond because of its usefulness in making drilling bars, and titanium is also used, and copper is used in terms of electric transfer cables. Therefore, that one becomes more important. It is now become a positive effect of volcanicity. Let's look at the fourth one. The fourth one talks about those volcanic mountains, or maybe volcanicity brings about the catchment areas. The catchment area of water sources, mostly water catchment regions, are originated in highlands. You will find that on the windward slopes of the volcanic mountains, there is plenty of rainfall. And as a result of that, more numerous vegetation will grow on those sides of the mountain, therefore making a catchment area of water whereby many rivers will have sources of rivers, or we have river sources. And when we have river, the river will supply water. Water will be supplied for industrial use, for both industrial use or industrial purposes and domestic. From domestic point of view, water is very much useful in preparation of so many things like food. Water also is used for drinking. In industrial cases, water is used in cooling the engines and also cleaning some parts of the engines. Therefore, it makes it more important and makes it better. Therefore, some of the volcanic mountains will actually generate what we call the catchment areas of river sources, which can also be used if those rivers have highest point. For example, we'll have waterfalls. Waterfalls can also be used economically to generate the hydroelectric power. Hydroelectric power may be generated from the areas where along the rivers where we have waterfalls. We can generate electricity, and the importance of electricity is more useful in our electronic gadgets. Electricity can be used in industry running heavy machines. Electricity can be used at homes, making our home systems like radio, TV, to access the information all over the world. That becomes a positive indication of volcanicity, because we will have the catchment areas of the water sources. Eventually also, during volcanic activity, when we base on extrusive features, and we have various extrusive features which result into the formation of rocks. Does rock have any useful? Do we have any usefulness of the rocks? Perhaps yes. Most of the rocks, especially the igneous rocks, which are very hard, such as igneous rocks, we can have the trachytes and phonolites. These rocks are very useful in the industry of building and construction. They can be used in building houses as well as constructing the roads. We require the rocks such as the trachytes, phonolites. They are used and extracted for the purpose of building and construction industry. Some of the rocks are made of ballasts, are made up into ballasts, and ballasts are useful material such as the granite, which are crushed into ballasts. They are used for construction purposes, and as a result of that, that one becomes a positive. Also, some of the volcanic features such as hot springs, geysers, we have hot springs and geysers. These features are very much useful. Why are they useful? They become useful because we can get geothermal energy. We can harness geothermal energy from the hot spring and geysers, especially the country of Sweden. There are numerous springs, hot springs and geysers around the regions, and this leads to the generation of geothermal energy, which supplements our electricity or energy demand in our day-to-day activities. Therefore, it becomes more advantageous. This one becomes more advantageous, and therefore it becomes a positive indicator of volcanicity. Therefore, as a result of that, these are some of the positive indicators of volcanicity that we are able to find. There are also more and more effects of volcanicity that we can learn. We'll be able to look other by yourself and find more research about it in various media, and you'll be able to get them. Now at this time, let us look at the negative effects. Negative effects of volcanicity. Perhaps when we look at the volcanicity at large, though we have been able to identify some of the advantages or the positive effects of volcanic eruption or the activity of volcanicity, we are also able to come up, we are able to identify the negative effect. And the negative effect implies that this one is a disadvantage. They are more of disadvantages. They have some shortcomings. They have some demerits over which during volcanic activity we can experience. For example, volcanic activities, they are violent. That one we understand. The violent volcanic activities or violent volcanic eruption, like the Strombolian eruption, leading to bombarding of the smoke into the atmosphere. The magma will spread a wide distance, and also the lava will spread in some given regions. That one will always cause some damage on the property. The properties are damaged. And as a result of that, when properties are damaged, sometimes people may lose life. There will be loss of life which will result into death. That one implies a negative effect. For example, we have Mount Krakatoa that erupted in around some 45 years ago. It led to the collapse of the Krakatoa Island. That one happens in Indonesia, and it buried around 3,000 people. 3,000 people were buried, and therefore they died. What about the properties that were around the Indonesian island? Those properties were damaged. Therefore, this becomes a negative effect of volcanicity, because some of the properties on the environment, they can be man-made properties which you have made. They may be damaged. We can also look at another one. Another negative effect of volcanic mountain, they create barriers. Volcanic mountain create barriers, especially to construction. Why do we have barrier of construction? Because the basement over which the foundation can be laid has been destabilized, and therefore construction of communication lines can also be paralyzed. Communication lines such as or networks such as roads. We also have railways. To some given extent, even the airports. We may have a problem in constructing these very important resources on earth which help us in communication. Roads, houses, railway and airports will have a problem such, and if we have or we had already have the communication lines or the communication systems such as electricity and telephone transfer lines, they can also be destroyed because of the shaking of land, such as the earthquake, volcanicity, which will lead into the land disjointed. When the land is disjointed, then it will lead to a devastating effect. We can also find another one. Another effect is that the recently formed volcanic landscape are made up of rocky surface. To some regions, the rocky surface are very much bare. They are bare and therefore discourages settlements. They discourage human settlement and planting of crops. We may have a problem in planting the crops, especially in the rocky surface area, and no person or no human being will be able to be encouraged to go and settle in a rocky surface. There are very few unless we use a versatile technology, which also becomes very expensive. That is about the negative effect. We can also continue to look at number 4, another effect which can also become more disadvantageous. Of volcanicity. We have the volcanic mountains forms actually on the leeward side. The leeward side of the volcanic mountain. When we are looking at the leeward side of a volcanic mountain, this is just to represent the mountain. And the mountain has got 2 sides. This is the windward side. Where there is warm, moist wind. And when this warm, moist wind arises because of the altitude, there will be formation of the clouds, which will bring what? Rainfall. And this type of rainfall is referred as relief rainfall. When the wind crosses on the opposite side of the mountain, which is now the leeward side, as the wind descends down, the pressure increases. Therefore, it leads into drought-like. There will be drought and desertification or desert-like condition, which we refer to it as desertification. The region will be desertified, especially on the leeward side of the mountain. What does it mean? When we have desert-like condition in such area, there will be drought. Animals will die because of lack of pasture, lack of water. Even human beings will not be able to survive properly because there is not enough water around such area. And such environments becomes also disadvantageous. You will find many people do not like to settle around the regions of the mountainous, especially on the leeward side of the mountain. Therefore, this became a barrier. As a result of that, the best thing that can be used maybe is to test the atomic weapons and also to train the security forces so that we empower them to find some good endurance. Volcanic mountains also emit poisonous gases. This one is 5. They emit poisonous gases. These poisonous gases, once they are inhaled, they may cause respiratory diseases such as the sulfur. We have sulfur gases, sulfide, and any other gas that is of devastating effect. It may lead to respiratory diseases such as the tuberculosis, because that one is found in air. Such like there was a mountain in Africa like Mountain Cameroon that erupted in the recent past years. It emits a lot of sulfur into the atmosphere, and that result around numerous deaths and various diseases around the region. That became a poisonous gas that was released. Therefore, it created a problem which was more disadvantageous to the people. Lastly, but not least, we'll look at on the steep slope of the mountain. What happens on the steep slopes of the mountain? There is no agriculture because it is discouraged. That one discourages the activity of planting crops. And any other activities, any other human activity that may be undertaken, because it is very steepy. For example, you cannot be able to access such regions because their terrain is very much steep. It is inaccessible. Such landscapes are not conducive. Such landscapes are not very much conducive in terms of road construction. Even the railway lines, for example, they cannot be constructed around the area because they are very much rugged, and therefore accessibility of the steep of those regions which have the steep slopes will have a problem in terms of transport and communication, and that become also disadvantageous. Also, volcanic eruptions has disadvantageous activity because they are very much hazardous effects. We have various hazardous effects, especially on climate, leading to the climate change and the health of some individuals or human life when they are exposed on them. I've already explained the effect of the poisonous gas that is emitted in the air will result into respiratory diseases But how can also climate be affected by volcanic eruption? You will find that the pyroclast that is made up of dust and smoke, there is plenty found in the atmosphere. You will find that below the air or below the atmosphere, the climate will change, because once temperatures reduces, we'll have a climate change. As a result of that, we'll have the various climate patterns which will change as a result of that, and therefore it becomes disadvantageous to human being. Effect number 7, we will have the ash. Ash that is emitted, or the ash that is discharged into the atmosphere. Ash that is discharged into the atmosphere can lead to the damage of a very important layer into the atmosphere that is called ozone layer. Because some of the gases may contain chlorine. Once chlorine is found into the atmosphere, it becomes very much corrosive to this ozone layer. And the importance of ozone layer into the atmosphere, we'll be able to look at the layers of the atmosphere maybe in the next lesson. But there is an important layer in the atmosphere that is found between the troposphere and the stratosphere that always absorbs the excess ultraviolet rays from the sun, which are very much destructive, that lead to the causes of various abnormalities on human life, on both human life, plants life, and also animals. Therefore, we will say that flora and fauna will be destroyed or will be interfered as a result of that. Much of it we will learn when we will be looking at the atmosphere, the layers of the atmosphere, and then we'll be able to discover most of its effects. Lastly, the same ash, when it is mixed with rain, melting will occur and it will lead to the formation of mud flows that are referred to as the lahars. These mud flows move at a very supersonic speed in a given area. If the landscape is not very much stable, they can also cause death. Animals can be buried by the mud flows, which we refer to them as lahars, and also we'll find various devastating problems which becomes more disadvantageous. That one becomes more disadvantageous on Earth's surface. That one brings us to rest on that area of significance of volcanicity and its effect. Generally, we have been looking at the topic of volcanicity and earthquake and various features. Still, there's one part remaining, but it is important as we are capturing this, we also have to make some review. And this review comes in form of the questions that we'll be able to discuss together. And then we move on as we continue to conceptualize this matter. What is the meaning of eruption? And then name 3 types of volcanoes. Any 3 types of volcanoes that you are able to know. Then identify types of volcanicity. Identify types of volcanicity. Then question 4, name any 4 extrusive features. Name any 4 extrusive features. It is important that we respond on these as we interact together to conceptualize the concept. What is eruption, or what does it mean? An eruption is a discharge of material from down below the earth. We'll be able to find out this material. Discharge of molten material from below the earth's surface through cracks, through what we call cracks or crevices. That is the meaning of eruption. And that is found in volcanicity. We've been talking about eruption time in and time out. Question 2 says that name 3 types of volcanoes. This one is very simple. We'll have one type of a volcano is extinct. We have active, an active volcano, and lastly, we have a dormant volcano. Extinct, remember, extinct volcano is the one that has not shown any sign of eruption in the recent past, while an active volcano is a volcano that has erupted recently, and it also shows some sign of eruption in the near future, while the dormant volcano is a volcano that has not yet erupted for a long period of time. Let's look at question 3. Identify types of volcanicity. How many types of volcanicity do we have? There are 2 types. One you have to remember is we have extrusive volcanicity, and the second one is referred to as intrusive. Intrusive volcanicity. I hope you are in a position to explain what is intrusive volcanicity. and at the same time extrusive volcanicity. We have two types here, extrusive volcanicity and intrusive volcanicity. Just as a reminder, intrusive or extrusive volcanicity is a kind of volcanic eruption that leads to the magma being extruded and ejected onto the Earth's surface, leading to the formation of extrusive landforms or extrusive features. And such extrusive features, we were able to identify them. While intrusive volcanicity is a kind of volcanic eruption that happens when magma is intruded between or within the crust or rocks, leading to the formation of various intrusive landforms or intrusive features. That one, we can rest it there and move on. You name any 4 extrusive features. Any 4 extrusive features? We have one is the basaltic lava dome. Basaltic lava dome. We also have another one that is an acid lava dome. You have to remember that one. We also have the volcanic neck. And lastly, we have a plug dome. Just any 4 of them, as the question required. We have the basaltic lava dome, and we also have the acid lava dome, volcanic neck, and the plug dome. Then we can move on, outline 3 effects, 3 positive effects of volcanicity. Any 3 positive effects. That one you can quickly remember. Any 3 outline, any 3 positive effects of volcanicity. One, we have been able to mention about volcanic mountains lead to the formation of soils. And you know the importance of soil. Soils encourages the planting of crops. You can mention any type of the crop. And then we also have been able to outline that minerals are exposed as a result of volcanicity near the Earth's surface, therefore making them very much easily mined, which also will bring in, can be used in various uses. Any 3 formation of the rocks. Volcanicity leads to the formation of especially the hard igneous rocks, which forms building and construction materials, which are very much useful for building materials. Rocks are very important because they lead to the they form building materials, and they are very much useful in the building industry. Another question that we'll be able to look at, the negative effects of volcanicity. This will be question 6. the negative effects of volcanicity. What are the negative, some of the negative effects? We can give 3. We have been able to discover that violent eruption leads to the damage of property. Damage of the properties on the physical environment. We have also discovered that a negative effect that it emits poisonous gas such as sulfur and sulfide, which brings respiratory diseases and are very dangerous. Some of these diseases may lead to death. And lastly, we'll find that the ash lead to the destruction of the ozone layer. This layer is very important because it absorbs the excess ultraviolet rays from the sun, and therefore trying to balance the human life below the atmosphere becomes conducive. Once you tamper with the ozone layer, you'll find that those direct ultraviolet rays, we call them the UV, ultraviolet rays are also dangerous because they can cause the eye diseases and the skin problems. We will be able also to look at the question number 7. Question number 7 requires that we study the diagram then we'll be able to respond to some questions. We have to study the diagram carefully, and then we'll be able to answer, to identify. We have to name and identify the following. We have to name Q. We name A, that is N. We also have to name W. R. And lastly, we have to name point P. This diagram, as you study it carefully, it shows some of the intrusive features. Are you able to identify them? Therefore, identify the part named Q. This is Q. This one is W. We have N. We also have P, and we have R. When you remember quickly some of the intrusive features, these intrusive features, when you look at it, the one that is formed below the Earth's surface, the crustal layers of rocks, that forms a conduit, that one is a batholith. Therefore, we have to name it. It is referred to as a batholith. When you look at W, originates from a batholith, and there is a narrow vent that the magma is ejected into the earth crust, and then it goes and forms a perpendicular pillar like a wall. What did we say it is? That one becomes a dike. When you look at point N, the one that looks like a mushroom figure, but also originates from the batholith, this is also an indication of some magma which went extruded within the bedding planes, and then it found a horizontal panel where it cools and solidified to form such a feature. This one is referred to as a laccolith. We can call it laccolith. What about R? The one that is formed nearly to the horizontal tunnel, which is equivalent to this one also, is referred to as a seal. It is referred to as a seal, and point P, we have also to name P. When you study it carefully, it looks like a saucer shaped. And which feature did we describe that has a saucer shaped depression like? That one we call it a lopolith. We call it a lopolith. Therefore, it is quite important that we have been able to discover such features that are intrusive landforms after looking throughout their significance. This is how intrusive features may be formed, and they are found beneath the earth crust. Therefore, Q is a batholith, W is a dike, N is a laccolith, then R is a seal, P becomes a lopolith. That one is our intrusive feature. Carefully, that is more important. Lastly, we'll be able to look at the last bit of this topic. We also have to look at folding. We have to look at folding. Shortly, we will be able to understand what is folding then. It is also one of the activity that takes place on the earth crust, and as a result of that, we'll find out various features that also may result to folding. Then what is folding? Folding simply refers to the bending or crumbling of the crust or rocks. Crumbling, or you can also use the word bending. bending of the crustal rocks majorly as a result of geological forces and we mention some of the geological forces include compressional forces, then the second one is tensional forces. When these forces act on crustal rocks, they will lead to the crumbling or the bending of the crustal rocks. Therefore, it will lead to another feature that will result in the formation of a different landscape. Therefore, this distortion makes the rocks to bend upward or downwards. And in the process may mainly occur on the young elastic sedimentary rocks, when you look at the young elastic sedimentary rock, they are more affected by compressional forces and also tensional forces. Remember some of the causes of these forces or the movement within the earth crust we mentioned earlier. For example, the movement of convectional currents triggers of the horizontal movement of the earth and squeezing rocks between them so that they fold. And this one may fall in this manner. When these crustal rocks are subjected to the force of compressional forces, they will make an upward and a downward fold that will result into the formation of a landforms that will bend or will crumble downwards and upward, producing such a feature. Therefore, the downwarped trough is referred to as syncline. This is also called the trough, while the uplifted part is called the crest. This is the syncline and this is the crest, and these are just layers of crustal layers which are bent, they are folded. This when they are subjected to compressional forces. I will be able to use CF as an indicator of compressional forces. Therefore, this one, when this force squeezes these crustal rocks together, it may result into such a feature, producing a down trough that is referred to as the syncline, and then the uplifted part, which is referred to as the crest. Also, during the process of folding, the earth crust will bend upwards while other parts will sink downwards, resulting to the uplifted part. Therefore, the uplifted part is also referred to as the anticline. While the down folds is referred to as the syncline, as I've indicated, having the crest on top. This one is also referred to as the trough. It is also referred to as the trough, and this one brings us to various types of folds that are formed. We will just mention them, and then we'll be able to look at them one after each other. There are various types of folds that are produced. We will name them. One, we have the simple folds. Simple fold. In fact, it is referred to as simple asymmetrical fold. We have what we call the simple folds, simple asymmetrical fold. And then the second one is referred to as asymmetrical fold. Asymmetrical fold. We also have the third type that is referred to as the overfold. And then we also have the nape or the overthrust. The overthrust folds. And lastly, we have the anticlinorium and synclinorium. The anticlinorium and synclinorium. Folds. These are various types of folds that we'll be able to discuss as we look each of them in the next lesson. With those very few remarks, I wish you a good day. Thank you.